Hello, this is Mr. Huff, and I real quickly want to go through and make a video about assemblies. We're just going to do a refresher really quick. So this is an on shape. What we're going to do is you're going to hit this little plus down here and tell it to create an assembly. I've already done one here and I've renamed it for a video. That's the name of my assembly. We're going to choose insert, and I'm going to start with the part that's most central. And when I look at this, it's the passenger section. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to just click out here somewhere and accept that. Alright, starting from this view, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to see the triad. I'm going to grab this little dot and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so that the hole on the top is indeed at the top. So when I rotate that, you can see that the passenger section is in the right place. I'm also going to right click on this first piece and only the first piece, and we have to choose fix. And what that does is it locks it to the XYZ axis so that if we move it around, the axis is going to follow this part. If you don't do that, your assembly can get misaligned. Let me repeat that. If you do not fix the first part, your assembly can get misaligned. Now we're going to add another part. Alright, so what I wanted to do is place that kind of far away from it so that I can see the faces that are going to connect. In this part, or in this assembly, I've left some things out because it was pretty complicated to get them all in there, and they really don't add any value to what we're doing for this assignment. So I'm going to hit insert part. So now I've got the front up here, and just like we did last time, I'm going to click on this right side and I'm going to get the triad. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees so that's roughly in place. This doesn't have to be perfect. It can be just close and that'll be just fine. We're going to rotate it a little bit. Alright, let's try this again. Two different kinds of constraints that we can use to attach the front to the passenger base. One we can use is the planar mate, and we would zoom in and choose the face here where, see how I've highlighted it, but the mate constraint position thing is in the center. That's what we want. And then we're going to rotate this view, zoom out a little bit so I can see the other one, zoom in on that. And in the same way, I'm going to click on this face when that mate constraint is in the middle and it's following me around. There we go. And we hit apply. Now here's the thing about a planar mate, is that those two faces are stuck together. However, if I click on this, I can move it around. If you move it to the side, you can see it's still on the same plane. It just lets me move it. So that's really not what we want our car to do, but that's one that you will need to know how to use for this. So right now I'm going to hit Control Z and undo that and remove that constraint, and we're going to put another one. What we really need is a fastened mate. We want the front of the car to be fastened to the body section. So I'm going to zoom in on this one. We're going to rotate it a little bit. And in the same way, I'm going to point at this and wait for the center one to pop up again. So that's the one I want. And then I'm going to point at this one. And I want the one in the middle showing up there towards the left. You can see it, and click on that. And fasten those. And if you look at this now, we zoom out, we try to move it, it doesn't move. That's what we want. Now we need to add an axle peg. Once we get the axle peg placed, we can apply a constraint. And in this case, let's use a revolute. So I had to think about this for a little bit. We want the axle peg to be fastened. We don't want the axle peg to turn. It needs to be fastened to the body. So we're going to use the fasten mate. And I'm going to zoom way in on this hole. And what I want to do is choose the one that's got the mate connector in the center right there. And then we're going to rotate around, zoom in right here. See this one on the back side? We want to highlight that until we see the mate connector in the center. And then we click on that one and hit check. And now we have the axle peg fastened in there. If you try to turn this, it will not turn because it's fastened. Okay. So now we want to attach the wheel to the axle peg, and we do want this one to turn, so we're going to use revolute. And we're going to choose, I'm going to zoom way in on this, and I'm going to choose this circle with the mate connector in the center on the back of the wheel. And then we're going to zoom out, and we're going to rotate around, and I'm going to zoom in on the axle peg, and that needs to touch here. And notice how that ring and the mate connector are in the center. And then when we do that, there it goes. Hit check, and now we have the wheel mated to the axle peg. And if I click on the edge of this wheel and pull it, you can see that it moves. My computer's lagging a little bit. There it goes. Okay, so you can see that the wheel moves. Another thing is we need to add a rim, not a rim, a wheel. That's actually the wheel, the tire. The tire is what we need. Okay, so I have the tire. I'm going to click on it and drag it over a little bit. And drag it forward a little bit. Again, if you need to, you can grab the triad here and kind of arrange it until it makes sense. Okay, I know that the way this tire is made and this wheel is made, that the outside edge of the tire has to align to the outside edge of the wheel. And I think we can save some time if we use fasten here. If you use revolute, what that lets you do is the rim and the tire can spin independently, and we're going to try using fasten. So I'm going to zoom in to the outer edge of my wheel and see how it's got the center point marked. That's what we want. And then I'm going to go to the outside of this tire and zoom in there, and I want that center point showing. And when I click on that, it puts the rim and the tire together. And if I turn the rim, the rest of the wheel also turns. Okay, so they turn together. That's just a real quick reminder about how to do assemblies. So we talked about using the planar, revolute, and fasten to help you assemble these parts.